Welcome back to Purify the podcast for entrepreneurs trying to figure it out. Before this guest introduce herself, I just want to bring up the fact that if you've been watching me from the very beginning, then you know that I kind of talked about people saying like during my journey of being homeless, people were trying to make it like, oh, you just lazy, you just want people to give you money, yada yada yada. But this guest that's on the podcast today, I actually used to do laundry for her. So I have always been an entrepreneur, always been someone who works. But tell us your name.
Well, my name is Brea.
How old are you and
I'm,
where are you from?
I'm 30 years old and I'm from Houston, Texas, born and raised.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Okay,
been in Houston all my life.
okay. I guess you got Houston on you. Um, do you have any kids?
I do. I have two kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 1-year-old. He just turned one.
It was a he.
Yeah, two boys.
See, I'm trying to talk to you like I don't know, but I did see. I'm not gonna lie, I did see one picture when you were pregnant, and then I didn't see anything else. But I didn't know that you had a boy.
Yeah,
so
I got another boy.
Okay, are you in a relationship?
I'm not in a relationship.
Okay. So, I did kind of talk about it already, but the podcast is for entrepreneurs that's trying to figure it out. But I also talk about our relationships with God.
Yeah.
So, how is your relationship with God, or do you have a relationship with God?
I do have a relationship with God. I think that's why I'm here. Because I'm learning, I've always had God in my life, as a child. I always knew of God, but I feel like this year when I turned 30, this is where God wanted me to go deeper. So, when people walk into their 30s, they're like, it's so different. It really is different. And when I turned 30, I was just so confused as is this is supposed to how it's supposed to be, like what's happening. But as I went deeper and I expressed myself on how I wanted to pray more, I wanted to get back into Bible. My manager from the tax office, she got me this whole she got me a woman's Bible, she got me a journal, she got me everything to set me up in order to, really get into the word. And I feel like it's different now because not only am I reading the Bible, I'm reading it through God's eyes instead of my own. So I would say, I'm still learning, but it's been a pretty good walk so far.
So, did you grow up in the church, or how did you, like, as a child, know about God? Because I didn't grow up in the church, but I did know, like, pray in Jesus' name. That's all I knew.
I feel like, I did grow up into a church, but church wasn't how church was supposed to be when I was a kid. I felt very judged in church when I was younger. Um, I didn't really know of God until I got to college. When my mom, she was sick or whatever, and I had to figure out how I was going to pay for my second semester. And something just appeared in my email, like, hey, you got this grant out of nowhere. And I'm just like, hold on. God, this was you. Like, because it couldn't have been nobody else, I didn't apply for nothing. It literally just fell in my lap. And people say, yeah, it's all about coincidence. But I just knew that day, I knew that was God that came and, helped me through that tough time. So, yeah.
So, you said church wasn't like it was supposed to be. Was it like a Baptist church, or what kind of church
It
was
was
it?
it was a Baptist church. It was a family oriented church and stuff like that. It's where your family went, your cousins went, so you went there too.
Yeah.
So and you really don't be paying attention for real.
Yeah.
So you just there, there, So
Okay, so you said since being in your 30s, you have been wanting to get closer to God, get deeper with God. What was it something that made you say, I need to start having a relationship with God, or was it something that He said to you, or what happened that made you like start getting deeper with God now?
So I feel like it was like my transitions. Usually when I'm going through a tough time, you know, I start praying, going to church, praising and things like this, and then things would get better. And then I would get distracted by worldly things and stuff that isn't of God, and then I get back to that down part. So I'm always going up and down, up and down, up and down. I was like, this time, this moment when I was down, I kind of stayed down for quite some time, and I was just like, what is it with God? I need this. I was asking for stuff for myself, but I never stopped to think, well, God, what do you want me? What do you want for me to do? I had to take myself out of that prayer and see what God wants for me. And it was, business was slow. I'm talking about super slow. I don't know. I just moved into a house. I'm paying for it on my own. I was in a relationship prior to that, was somebody was helping me, but now it's just me on my own with 2 kids and being an entrepreneur. And I was just like, well, I don't know what to do, but I know that you're going to keep me, God. I know that you're going to provide for my needs. So what is it that I need to do? I want you to give me a sound mind so that I can't keep hearing the voices in my head, because that's where I always astray. And I was telling I just actually joined a Bible study group, and I was just like, well, how do I know that it's God talking to me? And they was like, just ask God, because in the Bible it says, you ask and you shall receive. In Psalms, lean on not to your own understanding, ask and you shall receive. And give God your all. And I was like, God, I'm trying to hear you more. What do I need to do? So I was going on YouTube trying to listen to pastors and things like that. And the pastor, something popped up on my screen, and it was talking about voices, like identifying the voices in your head, and how to go against Satan's voice by rejoicing for God. And that's when things started to make sense. That's when I could hear him just a little bit more and understand that it was God talking to me. So, yeah.
Have you ever heard someone say that you can identify God's voice by his word? Like, he'll never tell you anything that's not already in his word?
Yeah, I did hear that. And that does, like, go back to, in my Bible study group, they was basically saying, if it's anything of God, it'll be in the book. So that's why being consistent in your book, in your Bible, it'll help you identify him more, because in order to seek God, you have to know him. You have to understand, and I felt like I was a little kid reading a new book, because I'm trying to know who God really is, so that whenever I do get into whenever I get weary in my path that he has me on, I know that I can rely on his word, and I know that is exactly him.
Yeah, so you said that you were down for a long time.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the breakup.
Yeah.
You mentioned moving as an entrepreneur with 2 children. Do you feel comfortable talking about the breakup?
I could talk about a little of it. The breakup was kind of bad. We got into a bad argument in front of friends, and things escalated, and people saw us in a very bad state. And that's the moment I felt so judged, because now I have everybody in my business. I got to figure this out. And I never thought I would be a part of something, that kind of abuse. It wasn't like too much physical, but it was physical, mental, all of that in one. And to be in front of people to see, it was so hard for me to, transition from that, because from what they see, it was all good and gravy. I'm like, girl, you sure that you was just doing this and that?
Yeah.
But it's not always what it seems to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, I'm the person that I can't fake the funk. I can't pretend I like something. I can't pretend to be happy. So, don't get me wrong, we're in a good place now, because we now have a kid, but we just wasn't meant to be in that moment. So,
yeah. It's really, it's not funny, but we say it's so funny. But it's so funny because I feel like a lot of us find God, like, after breakups.
Yeah.
I feel like my story most definitely started with a heartbreak.
Yeah.
And I feel like God was there that whole time, really just kind of like, really from the beginning telling me this
it's not for you.
It's not what I want for you,
right.
Or what I have for you. Yeah. And then when I fell with a heartbreak, fell with depression. And then from there, like, that's when I start hearing God talk to me. But I hear it so often that it starts like with a heartbreak or a breakup or something.
Yeah.
God definitely has funny ways of getting our attention.
Yeah, and he already says the signs. You know, if God's not in it, then for so long I did not have peace. No matter where I moved, I just wasn't all the way happy. And I was just like, I didn't understand it. And, the relationship became very distant. And I, when it comes to me, I don't like to be stagnant. I don't want to keep doing the same things over because, for one, I'm getting older. So is, and economy is growing, and I don't want to ever fall short because of something that I knew I should have got myself out of. And when that breakup happened, when they say God take the back of his shoe and smack you on the back of your neck, that's what it happened to me because I should have left before, but I didn't because I'm over here trying to figure out if it might work or listening to outsiders tell me like, oh girl, with relationship you got to compromise or you got to it's okay, figure it out. He's a good man and this and that. He may be a good man, but he's not the man for me.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, you had a baby, Bob. You don't really know who somebody is until after you had that baby. So, it's all a lesson learned. And now I don't feel bad about it because I used to regret even dealing with that situation. And I was always like blaming myself. Like, why did I do this? Like, why did I even I should have got rid of it when I had the chance. And I had to really take myself and tell myself, like, you're being selfish, because things happen for a reason and God gave you your purpose through your son, you know? And he was the one to take me and shift me more closer to God because I felt like I was doing it alone and it was just the PTSD and that kind of stuff and just dealing with a newborn, not necessarily by yourself, but by yourself because, you're the primary. And so I had no choice but to lean on God.
Yeah.
So.
You did say that you moved into a new home. Like, before we started the podcast, you said you downsized.
Yeah.
Did you downsize because of the breakup or, like, what was it, the reason for you moving?
One, because I had to get out the house anyway because they were trying to raise up the price and I couldn't afford it by myself. And two, is because financial reasons. Like, I went from paying just a portion to now I have to pay it all on top of all of my other bills. And when I was trying to find me a place, I was like, God, if whatever I get approved for, because my credit was not actually so good. I said, whatever I get approved for, God, I know that that's what you want me to have. And sure enough, this house that was so small, and I was telling my friend, who's my realtor, I was just like, this house is just so small. And she was like, yeah, it is small, but this probably going to be the house that you get approved for. And sure enough, it was the house that I got approved for. And at first, I was so against it, but when I got into the house, I felt like it was a sense of relief. And I just had no choice but to thank God because a lot of people can't transition like that, or they feel like their back is against the wall, and sometimes their back stay against the wall. And I just knew that he still gave me away. He still provided. He still, despite of all of me not listening, despite of me not showing up for him like he shows up for me every single time, it was the moment like, you're my child. I forgive you, and I am going to make a way. And that's when I just knew, I have to change. Something has to change, So, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So just to backtrack, because I forgot what I was about to say, but I remember now. You said that you kind of blamed yourself a little bit for the relationship. But, I mean, I know that you know this now, but we most definitely got to give ourselves grace because we simply didn't know no better. Now that we're in the Word, now that we're trying to have a better relationship with God, it's like we can identify the signs now. Like, oh no, this is a sign. God is telling me something,
and I need to stay away.
You need to move around.
Exactly. If God not in it, then it's not for me because I don't. Again, if He's not eating, even with my business, like God did give me a platform to be an entrepreneur for 5 years. I have not had a 9 to 5 since then. I didn't have to get a second job when it was a slow period for me. God made this for me, but the thing is, when I'm at my peak, I didn't have God in it when he was at my lowest.
Yes, ma'am.
So he kept giving it to me, and it kept getting taken away. He kept giving it to me, it kept taking away. And something told me that this time is going to be different. You're going to have to work a little bit harder. You're going to have to, because what I'm about to give you is going to be bigger than what you ever can imagine. And I started to, usually I'm so creative, and I can think. Even when I got my salon suite, I didn't even know that I would be a salon owner. It's just something that hit me while I was pregnant. I was just like, I need to open up a suite. And I went full throttle. Here it is. We almost 2 years in. I'm fully occupied still. And I didn't know that it could be possible. But, when God gives it to you, you have to stay in it. And I don't want to lose it. And I also don't want him not to be in it. So whenever, as I'm progressing and getting to, in my higher self, I want to make sure that he's still my priority in everything.
Yeah.
And I have to listen to that,
Yeah.
So.
I'm definitely, I think that some fear is good fear. Although the Bible says God does not give us the spirit of fear, I think the reverence for God is still important. So I do have a fear of, like, doing anything that God is not in. Like, I have a fear of being in relationships that God does not approve of. I have a fear of doing anything that God does not approve of. Like, I really, like, I'm trying to do right as far as relationships go. Like, I want to do it in the right order that God says, because I just feel like if it's out of order, God not going to bless it.
Yeah.
If he's not first, he's not going to bless it.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel that. But, so tell us what you do. What all do you do as an entrepreneur?
Okay, so I am a makeup artist. I've been a makeup artist for about 7 years. Professionally, I would say about 6. I have a salon suite in the Galleria area, the Beauty Avenue. Shout out to the Beauty Avenue. I am a tax preparer. Shout out to CT Tax Services. And I also I do a women networking events. I'll be coming up on my 4th annual vision board party, but it's going to be a little different this year. But I do those type of things.
Invite me.
Yes, I'm going to be invited, of course. And I also, this year, I gave back to a prom giveaway. So I was helping girls that were in need for proms. We did 6 girls this year and 2 boys. So I'm pretty proud of that. Hopefully we can keep going with that. Yeah, and my girls, that's how I know that God was just in that business, because the girls that were in there, usually when you ask for someone to give a free service, they be so hesitant. But when I brought the idea to the girls, they were all for it. They were all head on positive about it. Didn't have no negative. It was just so good, and they loved and they enjoyed doing it. So that was really important to me too. So.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is when I asked you to tell me what all you do, I'm reading like this paragraph of all this stuff you do. And the first question that came to my mind is, because I watch a lot of relationship podcasts, and it's very interesting the way some men think.
Right.
But have you ever had to deal with, like, a man being intimidated by you for for being this boss chick?
I think so, because that's why I feel like a lot of guys don't come up to me, because one guy told me, I thought you were like married or something, because you come off so strong-willed, like you come off so dominant. And it's because, I've been doing this. So, like, you can't just come to me. You can't little girl me, as they would say. You can't little girl me, because I have, I did this, I got this out the mud. So, you got to come with it. And I wouldn't want to present myself any other way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you have a desire for marriage?
I do.
It's definitely, I'm not going to say it's difficult. I don't know what's going on in the Houston dating pool, but
girl, it's ghetto. It's very ghetto.
It's very ghetto.
I
but
know.
Definitely a man is going to have to come with it.
Yes.
For a woman that knows who she is and can do pretty much everything on her own.
Yeah.
But so with you being a single mom, how did you I mean, I know with God, but how did you navigate like the transitions with now having to do majority of everything by yourself with the kids and still trying to be an entrepreneur, still, you know.
What's so crazy was I was doing that even in the relationship. That's why it was so it wasn't necessarily new to me. I guess I would say it's new because I have a second child rather than just doing it with one.
Yeah.
But you know, it's something that I gotta push myself. I mean, I had my son when I was in college. I mean, I was big, pregnant, walking up and down hills and having to sleep with my roommates because I didn't have a house yet. So I was basically,
Wow.
I was homeless for about a semester,
Wow.
and I was so uncomfortable. But I had to do it until I had my baby because I was gonna be gone anyway. And I'm not gonna say God makes people single, but God does give his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And when I say that is, I'm not saying that I'm supposed to be single, but God knows what he gave me in order to do what I need to do. So yeah, I'm single with 2 kids, but I'm also going to do what I need to do in order to, and it was so crazy. I have 2 boys. So I have to not only keep them protected, but know how a man's supposed to be. I know people be like, you can't teach a boy how to be a man, but that's a lie because for one, if you keep them rooted in God, God is our Father. So whatever they need, he will provide.
Yes.
And all I can do is show them how to be the best versions of their self. So, yeah.
And that's the greatest gift you can give a child.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Right. And it be hard. I have, and that's the toughest battle I'm handling right now, my patience with my kids, because when you get older, I mean, with your kids growing, they watch you and stuff like that, and how you treat them is very important in their lives. And I try to first of all, break the generational curses that is upon us, because, if you don't do that, if you don't fix the problem now, then it's going to carry on, not just to your child, but to their child.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to be a part of a broken generation. I want my kids to have their own assets. I want them to know the importance of, entrepreneurship. It just so happened that I'm an entrepreneur, and my mom, she's been working all her life, so she couldn't even tell me how to be an entrepreneur, and usually when I tell my mom, I call my mom and be like, oh, it's so slow. She'll say, well, the healthcare is higher, and she always give me a reference of going to get a job.
Oh goodness,
and
it hurts.
I can't fault my mom because she doesn't know, she doesn't know the new generation to that entrepreneurship, is where I need to be. So I don't blame my mom, but that's just a generation. That's what she used to. That's the norm. Like, even when we going to college, like, I didn't know if I was supposed to go to college, but that's what you're supposed to do. Yes. So I just went to college. Dry went to college, got a whole bachelor's degree that I'm not even using. But I don't know.
So at what point did you realize that you were an entrepreneur, or you wanted to not even use the bachelor's degree?
Like, girl, it's not even that I didn't want to use it. It was, okay, so when I was a freshman in college, I was hanging around some girls, and we got in trouble, and I got hit with 6 felonies of credit card abuse and theft. I was on Christmas break, girl, and I was the only one with the car. I just came back with the girls. They wasn't in college or whatever, and we were hanging out. And the next day, the cops came to my house, came inside my house, tried to get me outside and arrested me, and they tried to charge me with 6 felonies. But it wasn't me. It was a false identity because they said somebody picked me out of a lineup saying I went into some stores when I never went into any stores. And
wow.
Yeah, so I was dealing with that. I was pregnant in college, all of this, and I still got a degree. And yeah, so I had that. Long story short, it got dismissed because, of course, it wasn't me. And my lawyer was like, well, just take the misdemeanor, because if you go to trial, you could be facing more years. And my mom was so terrified. She was like, no, just take it. It's deferred. It'll go away. even though, and you know, before the podcast, as I told you that when I talk, I always sound so anxious and nervous because I used to be scared to talk in front of people. So he said when I would have went on the stand, they would have thought that I was lying just from the nervousness of my voice. But I was like, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And my mom, she was just like, you know, just sign. It's okay. It's only 2 years. And I went to my probation office crying, and it's so crazy because she went to the same college I was going to, and I did what I had to do. We got dismissed. I got it. It was deferred, but when I graduated, I was applying for jobs, and I got with this coordinator, and I was just about to get a receptionist job at the hospital, and I was about to get hired and everything. He was like, "Oh yeah, you passed all the screening, but they did the background check and they see 6 dismissed felonies. Can you tell us more about that?" I was like, "Yeah, it wasn't me." They was like, "Okay, well we have to contact the courts. The courts act like they don't know where it's from, or they didn't bother to explain nothing." So he told me, "Yeah, the HR doesn't feel comfortable hiring you because of the dismissed felonies." Wow. So I just felt so defeated over that $13 an hour job. And I was just like, God, you know, I went to school for this. I worked for this. Like, I was so sad. And then I was just like, well, what am I supposed to do? And something just told me, like, well, you know, you like doing makeup, go get certified for it. So I went to esthetician school. It was harder than college because I had to go to school 30 hours a week, work, take care of my son, all types of stuff. But I did it, and I graduated. I worked at some spas for a couple of years, and when my makeup started to take off to where I didn't have to go to work, she actually fired me. But I knew that was my time, and I just kept going. 2018, I found a salon suite, and I was nervous to sign it, but I signed it. And I actually was subleasing with somebody, so it was a lady in there too with me. And I was doing that for about 3 years, and then I got, you know, now I have my own salon suite. So.
Yeah. Congratulations. You are definitely an inspiration to other women, as well as just the fact that you've been able to make a living off of doing that. It's funny that God's plan is not like our plan. His ways are higher than our ways.
Yeah, and I didn't even see how blessed I was until somebody was like, "Girl, like you never worked a job after becoming an entrepreneur." I was like, "No, you know, I just figured it out." She's like, "That is such a blessing," and
I just figured it out.
I was just like, dang, you know what, God, thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to do this, you know. And it's so many people that's so scared to step out on faith to even push themselves in their entrepreneur journey. Like, you know, you have to be very disciplined. You have to, you know, have the faith for it, and you have to be consistent with the work.
Right. Exactly. So, you talked about the giveaways, the prom giveaways.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting into that? What made you want to do that?
When I first started doing makeup, I did a prom giveaway to a girl, and I was just like, you know, I need to get back into that. And I like making girls feel pretty. I like helping, you know, the girls, the less fortunate, because you should be able to, this prom is such an important milestone in your life, and I wouldn't want any girl, I mean, I know I'm not superhero, I can't save every girl, but you know, if I can save just the little that I can, I would want to do that. So, and it was so hard because it was me about to turn 30. I had to plan my birthday. I had so much anxiousness, and there's so much going on. But shout out to my team. They helped. They pulled through. They helped me and things like that. And actually, my last girl, her mom was just crying. She said they would stand in their car, but you would never see it from the girl because she was smiling. She was just so happy, and she looked so beautiful. And those type of moments, like, I live for it. And I know that my purpose is to, you know, help someone in need. You know, always be that person that there is hope. You know,
that's beautiful. You know, people have been telling me, like, on the internet and just in person, I'm proud of you. And I'm like, for what? Like, I'm not used to people saying I'm proud of you. But I just want to say I'm proud of you.
Oh,
you are doing an amazing job. And I love everything that you're doing. So I am in this place where, okay, so I have a friend who's pretty much my best friend. But she has, like, she does trading, and I'm like content creator. I'm in this space, my own little space.
Right.
And in my mind, I'm like, we don't need to merge this. Like, you stay in your lane, I stay in my lane. I don't need to have your friend group. You don't need to have my friend group. But because I'm an entrepreneur trying to figure it out, I just want to ask, have you ever done business with any of your friends?
I did do business with a friend, and I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend, and it's not in a bad place, but it's such a bittersweet sour patch type of idea, because going into businesses with your friends, it'll show you who they really are. It could be good or it could be bad, and from uh, talking to other people, a lot of people have, it's like 70% bad and 30% good. It's not always likely that you and your friend will grow in the business together. I did have a friend. She came into my salon suite, and she used to have her own. And when she came, like, our relationship kind of changed. Like, she didn't respect my business how she should have, and got mad at me about it. Like, you the one who was paying late. You're the one. I had to text you. It's not about you paying. It's that you paying when you're supposed to pay. I didn't make her pay a deposit. I didn't do anything. I was like, girl, come over here. I know you good because you're in this too.
Yeah.
But when people transition in their life and when things get rocky, they can become a different person.
Mm-hmm.
Although you try to help them you try to help them and say, I'm here. And me being so traumatized with past relationships with friends, because I fall out with friends a lot. I won't say a lot, but when I was in college, I used to fall out with friends often. And I didn't understand why. Like, am I a bad friend? Like, what was it that I kept falling out with these friends for? Is it because I'm not communicating? Am I too aggressive? So this certain relationship, I was like, I don't want it to end bad. So I'm gonna try to come as peaceful, as nice as I can, and it still came out bad. And she did try to test my gangster, but I didn't get out of character. I did not get out of character. I have grown, and shout out to growth, But I just didn't understand why that would happen. But when people are in different places of their life, you're not there to handicap them. And I had to understand, when God removes people, it's because you have, you're elevating, and certain people can go with you. When they say certain people can't go with you, certain people cannot go with you. And I understand that. So when I do, and they always come back, people always come back, and you always supposed to pray for your enemy. You always supposed to pray for him. And I've always been a forgiving person. I've always been a person that, girl, it's okay. I haven't forgot what you've done, but I do forgive you, and I'm still gonna be here. That's how I was able to forgive my friends, because I know that God is love, and as should we. So, yeah. But if would I do business with a friend again? I don't know. If it's not in black and white and we don't have contracts, so you see that we got to follow every single thing and we initial and sign, then no, I cannot do it.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. Okay, so I did hear you say, kind of in the beginning, you said you were thinking like in a selfish way, and you asked yourself like, okay, God, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So what is it that you feel like God wanted you to do?
So I feel like God wanted me to disconnect. He wanted me to do what's outside my norm. Usually when I don't have nothing to do, I'm shopping. I'm going to go drink. I am out, just out. I'm always out. But this certain time I was down, so I can't be out when I ain't got the funds, because rent's coming up, and
Yeah.
I can't. I got to be responsible. So I felt like God just wanted me to be in His Word and create a different routine than the norm routine that I was doing. So this was requiring me to, have daily walks with God, get into my prayer room, get on my knees, and start to understand me, so that it can make sense to you, because I know that there's voices in your head, because clearly, and I want you to identify those, and I want you to identify your flaws. And when I was in this, I was looking back at all my sinful ways, and I'm like, dang, God wasn't really in that. Dang, I didn't have God when I was at that peak, or I didn't have him when I needed to have him in this relationship. So it was making me identify. And I'm just in the car just crying, because I'm crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because the love that you have for me is just undescribable. And the fact that you show me constantly about yourself, about the love, about how you show up for me, about what you want me to be, it's so heartwarming. And how he sends people. And my manager from the tax office, I always thank God for her, because at the beginning, Satan was really trying to have me against her. When I tell you it was voices in my head, it made me think that everybody there was talking about me. I used to hate going, because it was something, they talking about you.
Yeah.
And I don't like when people talk about me, Yeah. And so it was just like, and I just didn't like being there. And I felt like we didn't have this relationship until we went to a Sarah Jakes concert, and we sat in the car and we reflect on what she was talking about. And I was like, I just felt like you didn't like me. And it was crazy, because she thought I didn't like her. And I feel like that's when the wall just broke, and we was able to get more closer. And she actually heard me, because she's also, she's walking with God too. And she heard me saying that I need to get more. I want to get more in my prayers. And she just God provided me this whole, I felt like I was signing up for Pastor University. As much stuff as she gave me, like she gave me all the tools that I need to get closer to God.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that I knew, like, that's my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Now that's funny because them voices will literally have you making a problem with somebody when there's no problem.
There's no problem. And it just that's why people be stressing, and they be getting looking, because they let these voices, the fear, it's that fear in you making you feel like you're not enough.
Yeah.
And literally that is Satan. Satan doesn't change up his MO. His stuff been the same since BC to now, Mm-hmm. So it's just all about us identifying it, and you're not going to know it until you read, Yeah, so.
Absolutely. Now, when you first came in, I told you that I was going to do a video for the intro of the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was thinking earlier this week, I'm like, I'm going to tell her to make sure she dress up so I can do a video, yada, yada, yada. But I was like, I really don't have to tell Brea to dress up. I know her makeup going to be on fleek.
Right.
I know she going to be coming well dressed, because I've organized your closet before and did your laundry before, so I already know.
Oh,
but you are someone that I look up to.
Girl, and you are somebody I look up to.
Oh, thank you. But it's just like other women that who may look at me or who may look at you probably think that it's literally just glitz and glam, but it's something behind the glam. And
for sure,
I believe that's gonna be the name to this podcast episode, be behind or beyond the glam, because everybody has their own story. And everybody's going through something. And entrepreneurship is not just like you grow. Sometimes you gotta fall so you can do it the right way with your relationship with God.
Yeah, it's not. And if people knew what it took to get here, they would, like they say, they'll be clapping and rejoicing for you, because they didn't, it takes a lot to walk in someone's shoes. And people always say, like, you make it look so easy. But behind closed doors, can you see behind my closed doors? Can you see the crying, the mental breakdown, the depression, the fighting the demons that be in your head constantly, to where I feel like that has, made me miss so many blessings because of the fear that I had. But, I can't worry about the past, because God would restore you now. So then I'm so happy that at 30, I would say, this is like my year of restoration, because God is going to not necessarily give me back, but help me restore what I've lost. And,
so I have two more questions for you. One of them being, well, first of all, one of the things I felt like I was struggling with since I found God is consistency, because I was kind of trying to figure out what the heck God was doing. And then whenever there would be spiritual warfare and I would feel discouraged, I would be down for a couple of weeks. I would see some negative comments online and be down for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I prayed and I asked God to give me the skill of consistency. And I've been getting up every day regardless of how I feel. And I know that it's not by might, it's not by power, but it's by His Spirit. And like we were just saying, like, people think that it's easy for you, or they say you make it look so good, but it's the Spirit of God, it's the grace of God, it's the mercy of God.
Yeah.
They just don't see that. But that was one of my struggles, the skill of consistency. So have you been having any struggles or something that you feel like you're trying to work on right now in your, as an entrepreneur?
I would say changing my old habits, changing my old ways. It's so funny because I was on Instagram and I saw this girl. She was like saying like it's okay to rebrand, and I never thought of rebranding as taking everything down and just building up. But it was so true when she said, you know, you can't bring the old version of yourself into the new version that you want to be.
Yes.
And that hit home because you know what, I'm not who I used to be.
Yeah.
And however, when I started my salon suite a year and a half ago, I was brand new. I didn't know nothing. I'm new to this, and nobody can tell me because my friends, they don't got this. I'm the first person to manage people, and I always call my friends like, "Oh my girl, I don't know what to do," like da da da. But it's something that I had to figure out, and it has to be flaws and mistakes throughout the process to get me to where I am now. Now I know that I can't. I just can't bring the old version of myself. So I have to create new habits. I have to discipline myself. I have to know obedience. Whatever I say in my business is what I need to stand with, because sometimes you write stuff, you say something, and then you just, well, give me more time.
Yeah.
When that time was right then and there, you need to stand on it, so that you can be better. Because how can you be better with, bad fruits?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the last question is, if you could give one piece of advice to an entrepreneur that's trying to figure it out, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, you got to stay consistent, and you can't look at your competition. You really can't pay attention to competition. You are your only competition. And however that may seem, don't think because you have to charge lower than other people that you're not enough. You're just simply growing your business. And if you don't have people that's surrounding you that's helping uplift you, then you have to leave them where they at.
Yeah.
So.
Amen. Okay, well, how can the people find you? How can the people book a makeup appointment? How can the people get their taxes done? How can the people enter the prom giveaways? Tell us how to find you.
So you can find me at Beauty Brea. That's BREA _ that's my makeup page, and there you will find the Beauty Avenue, Houston, Texas _ That's where you'll find my other hairstylist, makeup artist, Lash Tex. And my Texas is also through Beauty Brea. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brea, for coming on Purify the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I hope and pray that someone watched this episode and has a purified perspective.
Yes.
But I just want to thank you for your transparency. Because some people, I'm like, I don't know if I should ask this or that because I don't know what they're going to share. But
I'm ready to tell it all. I say, God, I'm ready. Put me on the platform so I can tell these people that it ain't easy. It was not easy,
Yes, but, and your story is going to help somebody, and that's what's important. But I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, girl.
I'm so happy to see you again.
No.
Okay, we'll see y'all on Purify the podcast on the next episode.
Bye.
That was good.
That was real good.
Do you feel like you were nervous?
No, I was not. I was not nervous at all. That was real good.